Good morning. Welcome back to the Broadcast Retirement Network. I'm Jeff Snyder. This is BRN AM for Wednesday, May 24th, 2023. And our top story today, private companies are charging veterans hefty fees to file disability claims. And joining me now to discuss this and a lot more, Diane Boyd Rauber is the Executive Director of the National Organization of Veterans Advocates, and Virginia Girard-Brady is with ABS Legal Advocates. Virginia, Diane, great to see you. Thanks so much for joining us on the program this morning.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. And look, it's the month of May, and we support our veterans here. We appreciate everything they do. Diane, there are many veterans who apply for disability benefits in the United States. Can you tell us a little bit about how that process might work and why this is such a big issue?
Sure. So veterans have several avenues for which they can apply for their benefits. And of course, they are always free at any time to do it themselves. They can go through va.gov and file a claim. But historically, there's been veteran service organizations like VFW, DAV, who are accredited. And then there's accredited attorneys and agents. And those individuals many of them are members of our organization, the National Organization of Veterans Advocates. And accredited individuals are accountable to the Department of Veterans Affairs for the representation they provide. So we think it's really important that a veteran who feels they need representation gets it from an accredited representative.
And Virginia, I mean, you are an attorney. You advocate on behalf of your veteran clients. Mm-hmm. How pervasive is this higher fee issue where there's a fee associated with filing? So you've got to navigate the bureaucracy when filing these benefits, right? And there are private firms that are out there doing these claims, and they're charging very high fees for their services.
You're right. So I've been doing this for about 20 years. And so the way that the system works is, just to give you a little bit of background, VA actually has a duty to assist veterans in substantiating their claims. So for that reason, a veteran doesn't actually have a burden necessarily of establishing entitlement to benefits right off the bat. So I think that's important to understand from the outset, because anybody who is an accredited representative and who represents veterans is not permitted to charge for a fee for filing a claim. So like Diane said, veterans can file the claims on their own. Certainly they can go to a veterans service organization like DAV or VFW, something like that, and they can assist in filing that claim. A lot of attorneys like myself, we also help veterans file those initial claims without any, charge or obligation. We do not charge until or unless some sort of an appeal is necessary or, further action needs to be taken. But the reason for that is because we have to give VA that opportunity to actually assist veterans in the first instance. And I would say that we see the cases mostly that get denied, but I certainly have lots of veterans who come to me and they get granted right off the bat. VA does what it's supposed to do. And everybody is happy. So the problem that I personally have with these firms is that they are charging veterans for services that they can get for free right now, and that they should not have to pay for.
Yeah, go ahead, Diane.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was just going to jump in and say, and the law is very clear that you may not take a fee for presentation, preparation, prosecution of an initial claim. No one is permitted to do that. And these firms or companies, really, for-profit companies, are really operating in violation of the law.
So how do we, obviously there's a show like this, but how do we make more veterans and their families, because sometimes the families may act on the veterans' behalf, but how do we advocate for people to get the information they need so they don't have to pay these hefty fees that they shouldn't really be charged?
Diane? Well, there is definitely information on va.gov that can help guide you to the service organizations that are available and can guide you to the free representation. I think that VA tries to put out a lot of information in that regard. We also advise veterans and their families and our members who contact our organization about some of these unaccredited claims consultants to be sure and check. VA has a database that is available to anyone in the public that they can check to see if the person they're about to work with or who's reaching out to them about filing a claim is accredited in that database. So we would really advise people to check and see if the person that's trying to offer their assistance is in fact accredited.
Yeah, and Virginia, just to kind of pivot back, I mean, is the VA, it sounds like the VA is doing a lot here. I mean, they are communicating and obviously the veteran has to take a responsibility or their family has to take some level of responsibility, but is there an opportunity here for public policy and advocacy to get even more pervasive damages if someone goes to one of these companies? Because it sounds like they exist and these are my words, not yours, but they're almost like preying on these people.
Right. So part of the problem is that they're operating outside of the law, as Diane referenced before. So part of the problem is that we don't have any real tool for reaching them at this point. So if a veteran gets taken by one of these firms, and so they basically charge an excessive fee for what they do, the veteran doesn't really have a lot of recourse. There isn't really anything VA can do because VA doesn't have any statutory ability to go after them. I think they can complain to the Attorney General. They can complain to consumer protection. I mean, they can sort of follow those routes, but ultimately they don't really have any recourse, and the government at this point doesn't really have any tools or anything really in place to go after these, which is why there's some legislation in play right now where we're trying to get that passed so that at least VA will be able to do that. But I know that VA has tried to educate veterans. I know that we all do. A lot of veterans just don't even realize that there are representatives or people out there who can help them with these claims. And what I will also say is that some of these organizations are pretty aggressive, at least on social media, as far as, and that's, so they get out there, they really get their word out. Attorneys generally are subject to ethical rules with respect to advertising. So, I can't speak for other firms or other attorneys, but I don't see our advertising probably being as aggressive as what they are doing.
Well, ladies, I need to take a very quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk more about veterans and their disability benefit needs. You're going to want to stay tuned right here on BRN AM. Imagine a new television network that will make you richer, healthier, and in control of your financial future. This network is for the policewoman in Nashville, Tennessee, the baker in Dubuque, Iowa, the teacher in Lexington, Kentucky. We want to make the idea of savings and retirement culturally relevant. But what do you see as a defining issue of the midterms, especially for the smaller businesses? I mean, they are the lifeblood of the American economy. Featuring exclusive interviews, current affairs, and docuseries. 33 years old, you retired early.
The philosophy is money only matters if it helps you live a life that you love.
But you got to start thinking about retirement as soon as you get in.
The Broadcast Retirement Network will drive very high engagement with premium partnerships. So this isn't retirement and savings for your parents or grandparents. This is for all Americans. And we're going to change the way you think about money. Welcome to the next frontier of retirement and savings. This is BRN, the Broadcast Retirement Network.
Are you stuck with a low credit score? A credit report and score that's causing you to be denied credit or pay higher interest rates than others for the same things? Then do what Terrence did and call Credit Repaired for your free credit evaluation to help restore your credit.
I started thinking about buying a new house, and my score wasn't where I needed it to be. I called and spoke with one of the representatives, and we just had a good conversation, and I liked what he was saying.
Just one call for his free credit evaluation was all it took to start back on the track to repairing his credit.
I'm seeing the deletions and I'm getting the report, so I know something's being done. It does make a difference to me.
All it takes is one call to get started.
Credit repair has given me a second chance to have a better credit score.
Don't let a low credit score hold you back another day. Do what Terrence did and make the call for your free credit evaluation.
Call 800-819-4152. That's 800-819-4152. Again, 800-819-4152.
Welcome back. We're joined this morning by Diane Boyd Rauber of National Organization of Veterans Advocates and Virginia Girard-Brady of ABS Legal Advocates. Virginia, Diane, thanks so much for staying with us this morning.
No problem.
Yeah, this is a really important topic. Diane, I want to come back to you. We were talking not off camera, but during the break about how veterans can advocate for themselves, and you've got a means to do that.
Sure. So as we were discussing a minute ago, there is legislation that's pending in both the House and the Senate, bipartisan legislation called the GARD VA Benefits Act. And we would strongly recommend that, those out there who are concerned about this issue would contact their, congressman or woman or senator and ask them to co-sponsor this legislation. The House bill has about 105 co-sponsors, and the Senate only has about 7 or 8 at this point. But, we think it's important legislation that would help, to Virginia's earlier point, give VA some teeth to go after these companies when someone complains about them. VA does send out cease and desist letters, but at the end of the day, there's no criminal penalties or penalties in play that would allow for another government agency to go after them. And we'd also recommend that people check out va.gov. VA puts out a lot of information about fraud generally, not just claims consulting firms, but other kinds of scams going out there that are aimed at veterans and their families.
Yeah, and Virginia, I was going to mention that Diane, of course, beat me to it. Fraud, that just in general, there's cyber fraud, there's people stealing information. I mean, that's another issue that you don't want the veteran to have to deal with, or their family to have to deal with. You don't want them to lose their privacy, lose any of their very special information, which would in turn mean that they could potentially lose access to some of their benefits.
Yeah, and it is my understanding. I mean, we don't really know exactly what all of the different companies are doing. I think different companies have different practices, but at least what we hear anecdotally from people who come to us after they've worked with some of these companies is that the companies have gotten their bank information, or they have accessed their accounts on their VA benefits accounts, which of course is completely wrong. They're also, they're charging veterans from their future benefits, which is another one of the practices of some of these organizations, which they're not also permitted to do. So in some instances, the veteran may not actually see the benefit for a few months after being granted. And normally, when a veteran applies for benefits, or particularly if they're trying to get an increase in their benefits, it's because they need that as quickly as possible. So, those are some of the issues. I think that the thing is that these companies, like I said, there's no regulation. Now, we as attorneys and accredited agents, we're subject to VA regulations, we're subject to privacy rules. There are a lot of different levels of oversight on us. And so part of, again, I keep kind of repeating this, but the problem is that they're out there and nobody really knows what they're doing, and nobody seems to have any ability to control or hold them accountable.
Thank you, Virginia. And Diane, I mean, just in terms of say you're watching the show, you're a veteran, or you have a family member who's a veteran, and you have gone down this road with one of these firms. What can you do to unwind things? I mean, who should you contact? Should you contact Nova? Should you contact the VA? Should you call Virginia? What should these people do now that they're down this road with some of these types of organizations we're describing today?
Well, actually, Nova has put together a 2-page document that sort of explains the importance of having an accredited rep and how to make sure that you're protecting your personal information, not giving out passwords. And we have a list of groups that we suggest people contact. VA Office of General Counsel is one. The VA Office of Inspector General is another. The FTC, the Federal Trade Commission, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. We also suggest that they reach out to their state attorney general, because sometimes the states have some ability to do a deeper dive and maybe shut down companies based on some other state rules. And I would also just advise, and I'm just going to give you one example. We recently had someone call Nova who said they had power of attorney for a veteran in a nursing home, and one of these companies came into the nursing home to talk to the veteran about helping him get benefits, and said the first thing they needed was his bank account information. So we always advise people, don't give out your passwords to your VA accounts. Don't give away your bank account information. No accredited representative is ever going to ask you for that information. So just really be protective of that personal information.
Yeah, Virginia, I'll leave that last question for you. As I'm listening to Diane talk, it's exactly like some of the Medicare, Social Security frauds that are or events that happen with some of our seniors. Hey, trust me, people can come across on the phone or through email. They can look very legitimate. And if you're not aware, you can get duped.
Yeah. And I would say that, one of the hooks that these companies use that is a little bit frustrating is, that their hook is, we're veterans helping veterans. We've been through this process. I think the thing that's frustrating is that most VSOs, of course, are veterans, and a lot of the accredited representatives and attorneys, certainly many members of NOVA, are veterans. So many of us are also veterans helping veterans. So it's a little frustrating that they seem to be sort of trying to corner the market on that, but that they definitely use that as a way of pulling people in and saying, we're in this together. We're here to help you.
Yeah, it's so unfortunate. And as I said, these are my words, not yours. Very predatory, really pulling on the heartstrings. And it happens not only to our veterans, but to our seniors and so many other people in need. Virginia, Diane, great to have you on. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. And look, we're going to have you back to talk about this some more.
Thanks so much. We really appreciate it.
Thanks so much, Jeffrey.
That wraps up this episode of BRNAM. Have a topic of interest, someone you think we should talk to, drop us a line. And don't forget, for all the latest curated news and lifestyle, wellness, finance, tech, so much more, all in one place, check out today's edition of our daily newsletter, The Morning Pulse. Want to search our archives, check out our latest content, visit our website, and of course, all of our streaming partners. We're back again tomorrow for another edition of BRNAM. Until then, I'm Jeff Snyder. Stay safe, keep on saving, and don't forget, roll with the changes. Now is your opportunity to co-create content around any topic on the First Lifestyle and Wellness Network. Reach a global audience through our platform and co-own exclusive branded content. All of our programs are available on demand and also as audio-only podcasts, so you can take us on the go. Broadcast Retirement Network, available anytime, anywhere, and on any device.
Tax audits, tax liens, wage garnishments.
Every day we hear stories like this about good folks who are simply struggling to pay their bills. Each of them are living a frightening IRS tax nightmare, and they are afraid it will destroy their lives.
I'm a divorced single mom, and my ex-husband left me and the kids with a lot of unpaid bills, including unpaid taxes. I was really starting to show my stress on my kids because the IRS had sent me a letter demanding a huge payment from me. I couldn't afford it. So then the IRS was threatening to garnish my wages. I'm already living paycheck to paycheck. That would have put me over the edge financially.
It truly seemed hopeless, but then a friend at work told her to call the tax relief line.
The people at the tax relief line, they told me about something called innocent spouse relief. They worked it out so that all of the taxes from my ex are not my problem. I don't know how that works, and I don't care. All I care about is that I don't owe the IRS a dime, and they are not going to take my paycheck.
Even if it seems hopeless, you should call the number on your screen right now. There is absolutely no cost for the call or the consultation. You are under no obligation. If you are worried that the IRS could garnish your wages, seize your assets, even take your home, call us right now. The Tax Relief Line is here to help you. Now you have a knowledgeable, professional team of tax experts that are ready to negotiate with the IRS and fight for you to save you money. The Tax Relief Line's professionals have successfully negotiated thousands of cases, reducing and sometimes even eliminating the tax debt for their clients. It's very easy to get started. Simply call the number on your screen right now. You don't have to live in fear anymore. The call and the consultation are free.